Hello, Leo, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights and advice for the month of January 2023. Because we're getting a late start, we're going to extend it for about a 4-week window. So into the beginning, first week of February 2023. That should give me a buffer, and then I'll have time to put out the next month's readings. So this reading will be for Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. By all means, if you know all three of your major placements, you can listen to any of the readings that apply. Each one may resonate for you differently, so if you're curious, check that out. And as always, before we get started, please do keep in mind these readings are general in nature, so they're meant to apply to a more broad collective of individuals. So not necessarily every detail that comes through will make sense for you. That's why I highly recommend you take anything and everything that does resonate for you, however that makes sense for your situation. Definitely use your personal discretion in knowing what works for you or what's best for you, and you can simply leave the rest. So Leo, Happy New Year, Happy 2023. If you are returning, I'm sorry I've been MIA. I was not doing readings for the last few months of the year, just because went through a little bit of a rough patch. There was kind of a bunch of things that cropped up back to back, and it was kind of brutal. So ended up just kind of pulling my energy back a little bit, focusing on myself and my family. And I wasn't really doing much in the way of energy work. So yeah, so now here we are in the new year, and I'm wanting to get back into readings. Things have evened out a lot. So yeah, I'm happy to be here. And if you are new, if it's your first time joining me, welcome. Thank you so much for sharing this time and space with me. I'm super, super excited to get a look at what's in store for the next month. I've got your oracle card here. We'll get you some tarot. Once the tarot reading is done, I will share with you the channeled messages that I actually sat down and connected with before I started this reading or did anything with your cards. And then we'll finish off with the final oracle and some affirmations. So before we get into the cards, I'm just going to share with you the kind of general energy that I was picking up on when I was connecting to your energy and getting your cards ready. First off, before I even really started doing much of anything, the thing that came through almost hand in hand was Mexico and baby moon. So I don't know, maybe that's on someone's mind. I don't know if that, you'll know specifically if that applies to you. Excuse me, perhaps you have had a baby moon in Mexico. Maybe you're expecting right now when you've been thinking like it would be nice to get away somewhere, have a baby moon. It doesn't have to be Mexico. It could even be like a staycation kind of close to home. Maybe that's something that you're dreaming of when the time comes that you start a family. Yeah, so I don't know if that applies to you. It could just be wanting to get away somewhere warm, which is not uncommon at this time of year in the Northern Hemisphere when we're experiencing winter. So yeah, and then as I was kind of delving into your energy, the thing that I was noticing the most was there was, I guess you could say, a fluctuation in mood, but it was almost more of like two opposing emotions almost occurring at the same time. Excuse me. Yeah, so two opposing emotions occurring at the same time, and they're almost like fighting each other. It's kind of like this contradictory energy. So it's like the idea of feeling both dread and excitement at the same time. And this could be about something in particular. It could just be a general sense. It could be sadness and happiness at the same time. It may put you on a little bit of a roller coaster. I've definitely been in that position myself when it's like having those mixed kind of opposing feelings. And it can be a little bit confusing, right? It can be hard to know what to do, and especially if it comes down to making decisions. But you know, that's just another normal magical part of the human experience. So you might be experiencing something like that right now. The next thing that I got was that there might be a really major focus on confidence, or confidence might be highlighted. So if you are somebody who has been working on your confidence, like self-confidence, self-assuredness, if that's something that you've struggled with in the past and that you've been actively trying to take steps to work on, that might be highlighted for you this month. It might be a really good month for that. If that isn't like an area of development that you've been focusing on, and confidence isn't an issue for you, perhaps you're feeling especially confident and stable and self-assured this month. yeah, so I don't know. It could just be that's what you're connecting with. It could be that's kind of what's being reflected in your environment, the stuff that's kind of happening, and it may be validating and boosting your confidence. So yeah, it could just be strong overall, or you might be stepping further into your confidence. And then the last thing was focusing on, like, an idea of focusing on what's most important. So I would say, especially if you have a lot on your plate or competing priorities, you might really just kind of need to kind of strip things down to the bare bones and really kind of work to prioritize what is absolutely the most important. And just make sure you're focusing first and foremost on what you've determined to be most important, and then you can kind of let yourself expand out from there. So yeah, we'll get into your cards now. So your oracle card, your overall theme for this month is No Place Like Home, which it's kind of neat because I feel like I was already picking up on that energy, and then the channeled messages that I'll share with you at the end also kind of relate to this, and I got those messages before this card came out. So yeah, so that might kind of have a little bit more resonance for you guys. So No Place Like Home. Obviously, this can pertain to a physical home, like a house, an apartment, right? Your dwelling, your home. Excuse me. But almost more importantly, first and foremost, it focuses on being at home within yourself, right? So that could be being at home within your body, right? Feeling comfortable in your own skin, feeling comfortable with yourself, connecting to yourself on a more authentic level, developing more of an understanding and appreciation of who you are, what's authentically important to you, and empowering yourself to not only make decisions that align with that authenticity, but also to kind of step forward, step out, and share that authenticity, share yourself openly with others, right? So it's like you're not going to be self-censoring or holding yourself back or worrying about what other people think, worrying about rejection, but it's recognizing that when you can take the time to develop that sense of comfort and familiarity with yourself, like, home cannot be taken from you if home is within you, right? So excuse me, that might go hand in hand with what I was saying about confidence, especially if you are currently working on that, or that has been a point of focus for you. This month, excuse me, I'm like, I must be getting sick. My toddler has been running around with a runny nose, so I feel like I'm losing the battle. I might be succumbing, so please forgive my my coughing and my hoarse throat. But yeah, so especially if you've been focusing on this, you might find that this month, maybe you experience some kind of breakthrough in terms of your sense of comfort with yourself, being able to accept your body, being able to accept who you are, like what your interests are, the things that make you unique, the things that make you stand out, maybe things that once at one point in time you felt self-conscious about, or you felt like were kind of unique or quirky and might not necessarily be widely accepted. Perhaps you're coming to understand that those are actually really beautiful, unique features that you possess, unique parts of your personality, gifts that you have to offer, and that there are going to be people out there who are looking to connect with somebody like you, looking to work with someone like you, looking to be surrounded by that same energy and share in those same types of experiences. So you might find that this is highlighted this month. You might have some kind of personal breakthrough. You might just find like things are finally settling into place and you're feeling like a little bit more at peace and at ease. And yeah, and it's kind of saying like the nice thing about having that stable place where you feel safe and loved and accepted, being able to cultivate that for yourself within yourself. It helps you to kind of maintain your balance when things in your external circumstances are, well, obviously out of your control, but maybe a little bit challenging, or maybe kind of throwing you off your game, right? It might kind of inspire a little bit of anxiety or fear, or, there might be opportunity for you to kind of start spiraling into self-doubt. It's having that place that you can kind of return back to find your center and to remember who you are, and kind of recharge. And that is exactly what your physical home should be as well. So there may also be a focus on the home, like your physical home. So it could be your house, your apartment, wherever you live. You might be thinking about buying a new house. You might be renovating the place that you currently live in, maybe redecorating, reorganizing, or you might be thinking about you may have already moved into a new house, and perhaps you're in the process of settling in and turning that house into a home, making it feel like yours, filling it with your energy, filling it with the things that you enjoy, decorating it in a way that feels like you, because the house, a house has an abode, a dwelling. I don't want to say house because not everyone lives in a house. But your dwelling, your home has an energy of its own, right? And that's the time, aside from like work, if you're working, that's generally the time, the place where we spend the majority of our time. So it's kind of important that we connect with it on an energetic level. It's somewhere that we can feel comfortable and safe and at ease. It's somewhere that we can kind of turn to reconnect with ourselves, right? So the idea of your home is that it should kind of surround you in the very things that you like, the very things, the colors, if you're somebody who has like a hobby, right? So for example, if you have a collection, it's like having your collection displayed. It's something that you can look at and it kind of keeps you in touch with yourself. So it's like that place that's just uniquely yours, and having that sacred space to return to. So you may be creating that for yourself. That may be a major focus. You may be. And also, like, if you live on your own or if you live with roommates or family, it's also important, I think, for everybody to have their little kind of sacred space, like their place where they can go to feel safe and to have privacy and to kind of do some quiet reflection and be in their own energy, be surrounded by the things that they love. So yeah, you may be working on that. There's also something in the guidebook. It's escaping me now. I'm just going to take a look, but I thought was really kind of neat. So it says, this card signals that your ability to trust yourself and feel at home in your own skin is beginning to solidify as you claim your dignity and integrity, aspects of yourself no one can take away from you. You know who you are, you hold your head high, yet with neither pride nor humility. Instead, you stand as the observer, seeing through the eyes of your soul. This puts you in a position of power and strength. Authenticity is your home. You are safe here in the house of your spirit and spirit. So, shared. And so I think that's like really, that's the part that stood out to me, especially with Leo, because, there's always a lot of talk of pride and vanity and that kind of stuff. And I think like one of the major struggles for Leo as a result is like learning how to do that kind of ego work. And it's like, you don't have to be at one end of the spectrum or the other. Like, you don't have to be all the way in pride or all the way in humility, right? It's up to us to kind of find that balance. And so the more comfortable that you feel with yourself, the easier it is to just stand back and be an observer of yourself and your experiences, be an observer of others. So you kind of take yourself out of the ego and the judgment, and that kind of deepens your experience of life. So I thought that was really beautiful. The other thing that I will mention when it comes to home is that this has everything to do with your connection to yourself and what feels right to you. So sometimes there can be a difference between what's right for you and what's best for you. So intuitively, we may know what's best, but it might be uncomfortable because it might require stepping out of the comfort zone. It might require doing something different. And so sometimes what happens is we kind of make a home out of what feels familiar instead of what feels right. And we think that it's right because it feels familiar, and familiar is safe and inviting, right? So there is a difference between that comfort that you have in your home or within yourself and just the comfort of familiarity, because just because something is familiar doesn't mean it's healthy, right? So sometimes, for example, if you're in a relationship that I don't want to go down this path, but for example, if you're in an unhealthy relationship, maybe a codependent relationship, and you decide like, no, this isn't what I want, or you end it and you step away from it. Sometimes that kind of dynamic and that kind of energy, because it's familiar, you find yourself either welcoming it in or being attracted to it. And you might end up kind of finding yourself in the exact same situation because you're mistaking that familiarity for being right for you. And so it basically says that if you're learning to kind of get in touch with your intuition, and you don't want to repeat the same kind of disruptive cycles, that sometimes what's right is actually doing the opposite of what you would normally do, because if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. So if something isn't working for you, or if you don't want to have that again, you inevitably need to do something differently. So this is kind of encouraging you that if you've been feeling like stuck or in a bit of a rut, or kind of wanting to free yourself from past cycles or mistakes or difficulties that you've had, sometimes it's doing the exact opposite of what you feel most drawn to and what feels most familiar, that will kind of set you on a new course and help you get to a new point of view where you can kind of find your way forward from there, if that makes sense. So we're going to get you a couple tarot cards. The first one is going to be your challenge this month, or energy that might be challenging for you this month, which is showing up as the Four of Pentacles. And then your second is going to be your advice for working through or overcoming this kind of challenge. Okay, and we've got the Seven of Pentacles. And at the bottom of the deck, we have the Ace of Swords. Okay. So I think it's really fitting that we've had No Place Like Home come up, and that both of your cards for this month are Pentacles. So Pentacles is earth energy, and it is the world, the realm of the material. So that is our money, our finances, our career, our home, our physical home, like our family and home life as well, our body, our health. And it has everything to do with material abundance. And so it kind of makes sense that if we're talking about home and we're talking about being rooted and having that kind of firm foundation, that you may very well be focused on the more practical things in life at this moment. So I'll start with the bottom of the deck. There's the Ace of Swords here. And the Ace of Swords, this is representing kind of like the past energy. So this is something from the past, either recent or deep past. It'll depend on your specific situation. But this is the underlying energy that's kind of influencing what is going on here. So either something has happened recently, or, I would say more recently, but something significant enough has happened that's caused a little bit of shift in perspective. Maybe it's given you a new insight, a new outlook on life, maybe a new perspective on what you want out of life, or how the world works, or how you're going to go about things, because this is about like the vast amount of information that's available to us, and how we have the opportunity to change our perspective at any time, to change our mind at any time, right? And so this could be perhaps working through challenging, negative beliefs, negative self-talk. It could be just maybe being really firmly rooted in one way of understanding ourselves or the world around us, or the people that we're engaged with, and then coming to a level of realization that kind of shifts your perspective, and there's an opportunity for new information to come in, new communication, a new perspective. And it's almost like an open-endedness, right? So there's the opportunity for you to kind of connect with anything that feels right to you, like any kind of perspective. Because you see, it can either be like an ascending stairway, or it could be kind of like a spiral downwards. And so with this new opportunity to connect with new information, we can either connect with something that feels light and expansive and offers the opportunity for continued learning and growth, or we can kind of go down the rabbit hole of like, maybe the shadow side and dwelling, and that inevitably will impact how we view the world and the decisions that we make, which will in turn impact our material stability. So maybe because we've got the Pentacles here, maybe you have a new outlook on your money, your home, your material possessions, maybe a relationship, a marriage, a family. Maybe you've got a new perspective. You're seeing life through a new set of eyes almost. And so it's kind of like being at the beginning of a journey and not necessarily knowing where that's going to take you, but that open-endedness and that new opportunity to kind of see things in a different light or connect with new information and experiences maybe has brought you to this point that you're at right now. So the Four of Pentacles showing up as your challenge for this month. You might be really focused on money. You might be really worried about money, stressed out about money. This could be like financially in terms of your current job, if you're working, like what your salary is. Maybe you're thinking like, I need a better job. I need to make more money. I need to save more money. You could be concerned about your savings. And it doesn't have to be worry or concern, but there is a sense of kind of this is known as the miser card. So there is generally a sense of being conservative with your money, and at the very least, like conservative with your material resources. So you may have just made a big purchase, and perhaps you are making adjustments to your budget as a result. Perhaps there's something in particular that you're saving for, and so you're kind of tightening the purse strings a little bit and decreasing the extra expenditures, so you've got more savings to work toward this goal. And I feel like, for those of us who celebrate Christmas, that can be a really expensive time. That can be hard on the wallet. So it might just be kind of being in a position where you're trying to focus on, saving more money and recuperating. And the thing with the Four of Pentacles that I will say is, if you have fear and uncertainty and, worry or anxiety about money or about your financial situation, you might... I think the responsible thing is obviously to be discerning about what money you're spending, how much money you're spending, maybe have a reasonable budget. But you might be tempted out of fear to hold on really tightly to what you do have, and just have a lot of guilt or a lot of anxiety about any purchases that you need to make. You might withhold making, purchases. You might agonize over, anything that needs to be purchased, or when it comes time to pay bills, there can be like a sense of heaviness and restriction there. And the Four of Pentacles reminds us that in order to get more, we have to kind of release our grasp, right? Because you know what they say, that you only lose what you cling to. And generally the depiction is somebody sitting in a throne, and they've got like a pentacle on their head and a pentacle under their foot, and like their arms are full. So basically, like the 4 coins that they have, they're completely and entirely tied up, just holding on to those tightly. So it's basically saying like, okay, yeah, I've got stability. Maybe I'm not hurting for money. I can make do, but I'm going to hold on to this money. I'm going to hold on to these material goods and these resources as tightly as I can, because I can't survive on less than this, and I don't want to lose it. And I think that's a natural thing to experience. Especially if you have had periods where your income has been low, or you've struggled like to establish any kind of stability or abundance in the material realm. But this is basically saying you might have a hard time trusting that there's more to receive, or that you can connect with more resources. And the beautiful thing about the Pentacles is that it doesn't have to be resources that come strictly as a result of your work, right? It can also be like gifts. It could be a windfall. It could be people just pitching in to help you. Like if you're renovating your house, maybe like, you know, having a friend that knows how to install laminate flooring that's going to come over and do it for you. And that's just going to cost you a case of beer and like a hangout session, right? It could be people, like if you're looking for furniture, it could be people like giving you hand-me-downs, like clothing, furniture, whatever. It could be family members stepping in and gifting you the things that you need because you've just bought a new house and you're trying to furnish it, or you've got a baby on the way and you're trying to prepare yourself. And so this is basically saying like Pentacles also have a lot to do with like giving and receiving. And so if you're so busy holding on to what you have, it's really hard to accept more, right? You don't have your hands open to receive, right? So if we're in that lack mindset where we're afraid of losing what we've got and we need to like kind of covet and protect it, then that's the way that we're kind of looking at the world. We're looking at the world as, you know, my abundance, my possessions, my resources could be taken from me at any time. And so inherently in that mindset, we're not anticipating that we can connect with more. We're not necessarily looking at the fact that, hey, anything could happen. I could come across something that I really need that someone's willing to give me for free. Or, you know, I might find a scratch ticket on the sidewalk and win, you know, $1,000 or whatever the case may be, right? So this challenge might be arguing with yourself between an abundance mindset and a lack mindset. And the fear might keep you feeling as though you need to be, not that being conservative is a bad thing at all, but being hyper conservative and restrictive out of fear, that can influence the decisions that you make, which will influence the opportunities that you're able to see or connect with when it comes to acquiring more. So sometimes it just takes us loosening that grip and recognizing that abundance comes in all forms and in many ways. When you're not so focused on potentially losing what you have, you're able to see the abundance around you. You're able to see the opportunities to connect with more. And the less anxiety that you have over it, the more easily you're able to kind of draw that in and accept it if it's offered. And also, this just kind of popped out, so I'll mention it. You may, if you're in a partnership or a family dynamic, or you're sharing finances with someone, you may be the one that's mostly focused on finances. Like you may be the more conservative or financially literate one. You may be the one who's more concerned about, you know, not only paying bills, but saving. And so you may feel as though the majority of the pressure and responsibility is on you, and perhaps that's why you feel kind of so restricted. And if that's the case, that would be unique for each and every one of you, but it might be worth having a conversation with whoever you're sharing finances with and seeing if there's a way to kind of share that responsibility. You know, for example, if you're with somebody who kind of spends without thinking, or maybe overspends, and you're the more conservative person who's focused on saving, it might be a matter of just like trying to get on the same page, because you shouldn't have to overcompensate and be extra stingy because the person you're sharing finances with is kind of carefree and spending at will, right? So that may be just for a specific few of you. So your advice for overcoming this is the Seven of Pentacles, which I love because this is recognizing and trusting our ability to manifest abundance, and that, you know, sometimes it is a long, slow journey, step by step. So, you know, this is on the same path. We've got the 4 and then we've got the 7. So there's 2 cards, 2 steps, 2 different energies on this progression of material abundance, right? And manifestation that are in between these two energies. So right now, this is like, well, I've got enough just to be stable, and you could very well relegate yourself to being in that very safe but kind of restricted stability, and never really taking steps to connect with more or to move along the path. And this is saying like there's more for you, right? So it's like you don't want to tie your energy up saying, well, this is working and I've got just enough, and so I'll kind of fearfully protect it and do the same thing forever. This is saying like, if you keep going, right? If you keep moving along the path, and if you can kind of release some of that fear and restriction, and trust in your ability to manifest, you can continue taking those steps. And so basically each of those pentacles, each of those coins is a seed that can be planted, that will grow into something beautiful, that will blossom into further abundance or stability. But it takes time and effort, and it's something that may not manifest immediately. And it's recognizing that, when you have the intention that there's something that you're going to accomplish, or there's something you're going to build or create, as long as you allow yourself to take consistent steps forward. For example, if it is, getting promoted, it's like showing up to work every day, doing what you need to do to establish yourself as a candidate, perhaps getting additional training or certification to make yourself competitive, right? If it's saving, if you have a savings goal, it's, having a plan to put X amount of money away every day, or every 2 weeks or every month. And, it might not be super exciting and glamorous, but it's understanding that when you have that desire and you have that intention and you allow yourself to take those practical steps consistently each and every day, even if it doesn't appear to be manifesting into anything, even if there isn't a whole lot of difference, or you don't see how that abundance is kind of growing, it's trusting that it will come to pass, right? It will come to be, because you see all these pentacles, how deep they're buried down. So it's just like planting a seed, and it's up in the air. If you garden at all, planting a seed, it takes a while for it to germinate, and then for it to actually grow up high enough that it breaks the surface of the soil. So there is a certain waiting period, and there is a certain amount of unknown. Like, is the seed going to be viable? Is it going to germinate? Is it going to grow? Or am I going to wait for 2 or 3 weeks and realize that no, it's not working and I've got to start again, right? But that's the process. That's part of the process. So just because you can't necessarily see how things are moving, and even if, especially because Pentacles is a slow moving energy, even if it feels like you're really, really slow to make progress on your goals in the material, it's knowing that taking those consistent steps. So like, for example, watering this plant, caring for this plant consistently is what is going to give it the environment needed to flourish, right? So if there's something that you're trying to create, you have to take the appropriate steps and create the right environment to encourage that to happen. And just trust that as long as you're taking action from that place of intention, that things will move forward, and you'll see the results of your work. And so with this being the advice, you actually may be seeing some of the results, or you may be encouraged to see, like, maybe you're at the beginning of a new path or a new journey, right? And that's what's got you feeling a little bit conservative. Like I said, if you've got something new, something expensive you're saving up for, something you've just purchased, or, it's going to have an impact on your finances or your material stability, it might be worth looking back at all of the things that you've accomplished to date. Like, what money have you earned, right? So maybe even like if you work, go back and calculate the money that you've made in the last 2 or 3 years, if that's something that'll be helpful to you. Or take a look at the things that you've been able to purchase as a result of the money that you've acquired. Take a look at the material abundance in terms of things that have maybe been gifted to you, right? And just expressing and connecting with to experience and express gratitude for the abundance that you have in general, because abundance comes in all forms, not just materially. And the more connected you are and the more aware you are of the abundance that's in your life, so it could be love, time, energy, relationships, like creative outlets, the more that you connect with that and appreciate that, the more you connect with abundance, and the more easily you're able to identify abundance and invite it in, which will help oppose any kind of fearful limitation around receiving, right? Around like having to hold on to what you have, being fearful of losing it, and being open to receive more, or believing that there's more for you to call in. So I think that's really lovely. I'm going to share with you the channeled messages that I took some time to connect with. The first one that came through was orchestrating. So yeah, it's like a sense of planning, directing, delegating, leading. So it might be something, excuse me, with lots of moving parts, or there might be lots of things to manage or complete. And it could be that you're responsible, right? So this could be at work. Maybe you're a manager or you're in a leadership position and you have a team under you. Maybe it's like a project at work. It could be a personal project or something that you're working towards, like in your personal life. Like, yeah, it really could manifest in any way. So that will be unique to each and every one of you. But I did get the sense that perhaps you're responsible for kind of knowing what needs to be done and taking all of the resources that are available to you and kind of just orchestrating things in such a way that you're going to get that end result. So you may be the one orchestrating and putting everything together so that it turns out into like something beautiful, or it's like, that you bring that kind of manifestation to life. And then the next message that came through was, I can't believe my eyes. And so that could be in one way like surprise, disbelief, shock. It could be something that's awe-inspiring, like, wow, I can't believe I'm seeing this. Like a sense of something being surreal or difficult to process or profound, right? So it could be like a really profound experience, something that's just kind of changes your perspective entirely. This may be related to this kind of new perspective on life. Maybe with this new perspective or this new outlook or this new set of beliefs that's inspiring you, maybe you're seeing the world differently. Maybe you're seeing the world through a different set of eyes in a way that you've never seen it before, and it's difficult to believe it. And the other thing that I would say is it could be like legitimately like your eyes are playing tricks on you if you have vision problems. But then the thing that came through right after that was that maybe seeing isn't believing for you. Maybe you're somebody who always like you have to see it to believe it. And maybe you're realizing that there's actually a disconnect between what you see in like the material world, right, on a superficial level, and what is actually true and real, like in reality. So for like the best example I'll give you is, in a friendship with somebody, maybe in a relationship with somebody, when you can sense or that something's wrong or they're upset, and they say, no, I'm fine, and they're all nice and like happy and smiles to your face, and then they go trash you to somebody, and you may or may not know that, but like it's kind of recognizing that things can be presented to us in a very straightforward and practical way, and that might not actually be representative of what's true and what's going on under the surface. So you may be realizing that that seeing isn't necessarily believing, like not everything that you see is real and true, and learning to connect more to your gut and your instincts and your kind of impressions of a situation, because there is more to absolutely everything than meets the eye, right? And so you might be realizing that you have to kind of trust your instincts, and that sometimes the stuff that we see in the physical environment is just projections. It's not necessarily anything solid. And that could very well have to do with your ideas about abundance and stability as well, right? So maybe if like the reason that you're feeling so concerned about money is you're looking at everyone else and thinking like, well, everybody else is stable and they've got these houses and they've got all this money to do renovations and they're having families and they're buying new cars and they're fine. Yeah, and that might be what they're projecting, but maybe in reality they're just barely making ends meet, or maybe they're, awfully in debt and they're not going to recover from that, right? That's just one possibility, but what you see isn't always what you get. And I think that's why it's important to honor your intuition and to do what's right for you at the end of the day. That's where I'll leave that. And I'm going to get you a final oracle card, just as a little bit of extra advice or insight to tie everything together. And I'll just read this directly. I'll read this directly from the guidebook, and you guys can kind of take it as you will, however it resonates for you, whatever that might connect to. I'm going to leave that open-ended. Okay. So your card is Sisterhood of the Rose, and it says Beauty and Devotion, Priestess, Mystic, Teacher. Okay, let me just find my guidebook here. Right. This is just going to take me a moment. I have to find the page here. This deck, I absolutely love it, and it's beautiful, and I love the messages, but it is such a pain to find the actual information in the guidebook because there are no numbers and it's not in alphabetical order, and there's a bunch of like different types of cards, like activation cards, like it's difficult to navigate sometimes. So I found it. Sisterhood of the Rose, Beauty and Devotion, Priestess, Mystic, Teacher. The Sisterhood of the Rose is a lineage of priestesses and mystics who devoted their lives to serving humanity and seeding light consciousness all over the earth. A cross-section of ancient lineages, it is the path of devotion and beauty. Walking this path means being devoted to seeing and creating beauty wherever you go. The rose symbolizes the heart and the sacred geometry of all life. You are being called to notice the beauty around you, particularly in nature, and hear the whispers of Mother Earth. You are being called to spend more time in nature, as all the ancient secrets live there. Mother Earth is constantly whispering. Spend time admiring her creations, and you will be rewarded with insight and grace. You are being called to take a little more time to both notice the beauty that exists all around you and contribute to the beauty of the world in your own way too. This could be through your own creations or in the little things like how you dress to picking flowers for your home. Every time you devote your time to creating beauty, you harmonize the planet a little more and shift in vibration can be felt. And there's a work your light action. So it says, surround yourself with beauty and create beauty wherever you go. So I think that's a really lovely card, and it definitely ties into this earth theme, right? So getting out, spending time in nature, not only might it be particularly grounding for you and help you to kind of connect with yourself and receive some more intuitive insight and wisdom, but it's also going to allow you to just, immerse yourself in and appreciate beauty, right? Because beauty, the beauty of the world around us, the beauty that we see in other people, the beauty that we see like in landscapes, right? That beauty is it's available to us. It's free, right? That is free abundance, right? That is the first and most natural form of abundance, and it is free and available to everyone. So taking time to connect with that might also help your abundance mindset. It might help you get some clarity and feel stable and grounded in yourself. And, it kind of goes hand in hand, not only with feeling at home within yourself and being authentic, but also like your physical home, right? So, cut some flowers, decorate your space, right? Not only in experience and indulge in the beauty around you, but add some beauty, create some beauty for yourself and for others. And roses may be significant to you, so maybe you want to buy yourself some roses. And I'm gonna get you two affirmations just to finish everything off. So these affirmations might be helpful to you right now, or might be something to kind of write down and keep on hand for, moving through the month. Okay, so I dish out compliments sincerely and liberally. I think that's also part of sharing beauty, right? Because compliments mean you're seeing the beauty, and it doesn't always have to be like superficial beauty, but you're seeing the beauty in other people, you're recognizing it, you're telling them about it. It makes them feel good, it makes you feel good, and that can be a way of appreciating and sharing beauty at the same time. And I make the time to recharge my battery. The world needs my energetic light. Yeah, and so recharging, like I said, that can have a lot to do with your relationship to self, feeling safe and comfortable in your own body, in your own energy, and then also in your home, because look, there's a light radiating from there. And yes, also getting out into nature might be helpful in terms of resting and recharging so that you have beauty and light to share with others. So Leo, that is your reading. I'm going to leave it here. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube, leave me a comment, let me know what you think or how it resonated. Beyond that, if there's anyone you can think of that might be interested in my readings, you can share my content with them. And if you haven't already, you can hop on over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot. Make sure you're subscribed and that you click that little bell icon, as that will ensure that you receive notifications and keep you up to date on new readings as they're posted. So I'm hoping to kind of get back in the swing of things and have more content for you all. So I think that's everything. So Leo, I hope this month is great. I hope that it's good to you, and that you're able to lean into these energies with ease and enjoyment. And it's been an absolute pleasure reading for you. I cannot wait to reconnect with you again and read for you again in the future. And in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.